Hi there. Welcome back to Divas, Diamonds, and Dollars podcast. My co host Cecilia and I are going to regale you with some key information because you know this is the spot for the best conversations about situations or issues, if you will, impacting women today. We talk about your life, we talk about your money, and everything in between, all the things that are going to help you lead the business of life well lived. Now, today's topic is I'm going to say it comes under the heading of thought provoking, and Cecilia is going to share with you some thoughts on Juneteenth 2021 reflections. Cecilia, the mic is yours.
All right. Well, hello there, everyone. So, when I think about what my sister said, we do things that affect everyone. And affecting everyone means that your business, what you feel like when you get up in the morning or after your day gets started, you can still be impacted by the things that are going on around you. So, this is Juneteenth 2021 Reflections because I know I'm affected and because there are shows, there are people talking about it, and I believe some of you also are affected. But at the end of the day, life goes on and we can still live life well lived. So, I'm thinking through what Larisa said. Well, the other part of that is the reason for this podcast is every business. So, many of you do have businesses, should have a corporate responsibility. So, the word corporate just means it's more than you, it embodies a group of people. So, that's why I say corporate. So, you could have a large organization or a small organization. Your LLC may just be one, two, or three. But corporate responsibility plan where they do address social issues at least once a quarter. So the past year has made diversity, equity, and inclusion the eye-opening exposure in history. Information has been unveiled in mass amounts of data, films, talk shows, just news hour revelations. So, with that in mind, this is a reflective podcast format, and you will hear me speak in this way because I really want you to pause and reflect and consider some of the takeaways as I share this with you. So, with that, let's talk about history. So, I actually have said this before. I do like history in that you need to know about your history to know where you're going. And that is a big subject today. So, a little history lesson. Last Friday, I was on a Zoom with other people, and this guy brought up the Dred Scott decision. And this one lady said she didn't know what that was about. And actually, I was surprised, given who it was, that they didn't know about it. I said, I said, okay, you're making this guy's point that we really need to be able to talk about history. So, Juneteenth, the 13th Amendment officially ended slavery on January 1863. But guess what? The slaves in Galveston, Texas did not even get the news for 2 years later, actually 2.5 years later. Imagine that they did not know that slavery had ended for them. So that's why Juneteenth became to be the official, and we used to kind of say it was a black holiday, but now more people are learning about it. So, and I think more may have learned about it last year because we were virtual, and so it was just whatever was on the news and just people looking for things to do. So the reason I say reflections because today it's a little hard to consider this as a celebration, although I'm sure there are going to be Juneteenth celebrations out there. So today, the reason I also say that is if you consider where we were a year ago, we had protests going on. And the world witnessed this uh, period of protest here in America. And so we know what happened then. And here we are 158 years later, okay? All right, so today's question, if we're talking about freedom 158 years ago, the question today is, are we really free? So reflecting, what does progress look like? Marvin Gaye, many of you have heard of Marvin Gaye, the musician who had an anthem album, and this was during his period of time where he put out a lot of songs that made us reflect. That one song, What's Going On, actually came out in some protests. There's a reason why that came out. You know, if you know the song, Mother, 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 I almost want to sing it, but my sister could sing it. But anyway, Mother, 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 there's too many of you crying. Brother, 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 there's too many of you dying. For only love can conquer hate is another line in that song. And many of us are trying to figure that out today. Two other songs on that album, Cry Out, Save the Children. I mean, while we are talking to our women and maybe men who are leading the way, who have businesses, but we also look towards our children who are our future. And then there's Mercy, Mercy Me. Someday that's all you can say. Mercy, mercy, mercy. Okay. So as I think about that, before I go on, Lisa, I know you can at least connect with the songs. Any thoughts about that? You have two young men. I'm sure there is some connection there.
Well, I haven't heard those songs in such a long time. And I want to say they came out in my teen years. I'd have to do the math. I don't know. But, you know, they're totally apropos for today. And it makes you feel like not much has changed because they would still be accurate. And that is this weekend. That is very disheartening. So I don't want to go down into, you know, a dark space, but definitely those songs are appropriate for today, and definitely I said disheartening, I should say heartfelt. Certainly they awaken in one the conversations, you know, about, you know, that statement, what, one step forward, two steps backwards. So it's a tough call. There is a lot going on. And
Right.
who was it? There was a TV host, Night Show, talking about, what did he say? He called it progressivophobia. And so people were saying that, you know, they want to deny that there's been any progress made. And I guess, you know, to some degree, not even to some degree, I'm going to say to a great degree, yes, there's been a lot of progress made, but it is still, the journey is still long. The journey is long. There's so much more that needs to be done. And so I've been disheartened, I've been heartfelt, and now I don't want to be discouraged, but yeah, there's a lot going on. There's a lot that needs to be done, but yeah, sure, there have been improvements, but there's a lot of work left to do.
So that's you actually, you know, in a nutshell said what this is about. And so, you know, I was thinking of, wondering, questioning, cogitating. Now, you know, yes, the question, there are some asking, are we really free? I read an article that somebody wrote that, and it was a good article. And like what you just said, I don't want to, you know, be discouraging, or even the word dark can kind of come up, depends on who you talk to. So, but the one point about this when we're talking about social responsibility is that you can't ignore that noise of systemic racism, the outcry from various sources not to teach critical race theory when all some people want to do is just educate people about what has happened. And for people not to want to know the truth, that was what history was supposed to be about, truth. Learning is supposed to be about truth. Education is supposed to be about truth. When Larisa and I come to you, while a lot of what we say is maybe an opinion, but it's based on research, it's based on truth, it's based on giving you our very best, based on some factual foundation. And so, again, this is in the same vein. So we have to figure out what's going on, because the question is not going to go away for sure in today's environment. And but by the same token, how many generations have said that? And so as we think about this, there are opportunities for us to, how do we play? How do we engage? One is to unlearn racial bias, find ways to move towards one another, not away from each other. As I talk about wondering, if you're a person of faith, some people have walked by faith and they answer the call by being advocates of justice for other people. And you see that. Hear people, and they're just not going to turn back. So I think that's all well and good, whatever side you're on, provided you're trying to hear. So one of the other parts that I've been trying to do, that I've reflected on is, it's easy to walk by people sometimes. Maybe you're busy, maybe you're just in thought and you don't see people, but now I'm trying to really see people. I can look at people and realize I've had some biases that when people looked a certain way, well, guess what? Wow, people, we're in all shapes, colors, outfits, hair colors, piercings, tattoos. You cannot make assumptions about people today at all. So first is to see people. And then it's about hearing one another, but how do we, get there? Okay. So so that's what I mean by moving towards each other and not moving away from each other. The wonderment of during this time, some people have brought up the Holocaust. That's part of the humanity of things that have happened historically. And so Germany has paid reparations to the victims of the Holocaust. And what's important about that is they pay the reparations because they have acknowledged that something happened. America has not. America, in too many corners, does not even acknowledge slavery. Some people will say they were servants, even though they were brought here against their will. I had a picture because something was on 60 Minutes yesterday of a slave ship and how the slaves looked. But anyway, the Tulsa massacre has been talked about the last couple weeks because this is the 100th year anniversary. Again, that was a buried historical fact. It's hard to believe that a massacre of about maybe 300 people, bombing a town, a well-to-do town of Blacks who were thriving, who had their own businesses, that a town was blasted and people were buried in perhaps mass graves and nobody talked about it. But it was a fact. And finding out about that fact, unfortunately, you find out in America, even since that time, that was 100 years ago, but there have been other massacres in America. Okay, so this is all not about massacres or slaves, but Juneteenth does provide another inflection point of where we are on the, trying to figure out our social reckoning, social justice. depending on whatever you want to call it. And it used to be we were okay with saying for the greater good. That's what America was founded on, the greater good. So here we are, we're in a reckoning situation. And as we talk about this, we want to talk about it because whatever business I'm in, it's usually more than putting food on the table. We are engaged with other people. We are doing things for our children. We want to make a better life for those who come after us. And so that's another reflection about why we're having this conversation. Some people who obviously don't feel this calling, they say, well, I'm not involved, or hey, I see people and, I speak to everybody. Yeah. So again, reflection. So as we are, going through this reckoning, there are other things about this time, voter suppression. Let's face it, I don't want to talk about how many bills there are because, again, that's a whole nother story. Uh, why does that matter? Because we are in a country that says we're free and that everybody has the right to vote. So look inside yourself and think about what you think about that. Is it okay that I give somebody a drink of water because they're standing in line? Am I going to be convicted because I want to do that for somebody or help somebody get to the poll because they, you know, don't have transportation or they work late? And that's why we have polls open in the evening. So again, another thought. Fact is, we should all be free. So any thoughts, Larisa, as I pause for the cause here? Without trying to go through this long list, but just thinking.
Well, there are so many things to think about, and I feel like so much of it is that I've often said that humans are social beings, and yet we do everything we can to push people away. And when I hear about proposed legislation or legislation that is rushed through to take away rights from other people who look different from the, frankly, lawmakers, it is in many ways the speed with which some of these things happen seems like it's very what is it called? It's very reactive because the truth has raised its ugly head and people not only don't want to face it, I want to say they actually want to take action to bury it or to,
Yes.
again, that word, it's a made up word, but progressivophobia, they don't want things to change. And it's hard to know which way to turn when with every way you look, it is there's another challenge. And most of us just want to do our thing. We want to go to work. We want to make nice. We want to meet people. I enjoy making the pretty. Um, and there's a lot to think about when you're trying to live your best life and to grow and become. And it feels like in many ways there are more than a handful of people saying, no, not you. And my favorite thing is, why not me? So
Right.
when I read about or hear however I get the information, it does keep me on alert and probably some heightened degree of anxiety, but I do want to be a part of the change. And so with these people stirring the pot, trying to keep folks, I won't say trying to keep folks down, but trying to prevent progress, trying to prevent coming together, which I don't understand. Why is that? Why? That's my other word. I try very hard not to say why. I'm just going to say I don't understand. So it is a challenge when, we want to provide for our family, we want to share the good with others. Seems like a fine way to go. So when there are people who are trying very hard not to share with others, I'm like, I don't get it. So not unaware just it is difficult to know which way to turn.
Right, right. So thank you for that. So I learned something new today, progressive phobia. I mean, those are two hot words, sister. That's really, it makes me reflect, So, um, and as sober as this is, some things you have to kind of smile and irony and like you said, just think about, because quite frankly, I refuse to be those people and you do too. And I know for a fact that um sometimes we just will try to be as effective as we can be and ignore, some of the other stuff. And so I like you say, it's just hard to understand. And really, I don't know that I want to understand the other side, really. But I ran across the word ethos. And so, because I always try to, I get these emails that, your new word for the day, and do you know what it means? And but it reflected for me, um, because I always thought, it says the characteristic. So I'm thinking character, because we all have character, whatever happened to values, spirit. We're all trying to be collective of a culture. We talk about American culture, right? So, it's just one of those, I'm trying to marinate this, an error community. We're trying to say, we used to say we were founded on a foundation of our beliefs and cultures and aspirations. That's what we're talking about with our families and living our best life. So, you know, that's, some of us, that's what we'll do, right? So as we kind of go away with the reflection, I believe that today people are calling for more accountability, and some people, no kidding, are really trying to be intentional about this and trying to, talk about it. They're not going away, people. So because there are people out there saying freedom is for all Americans. And so that's what we're talking about. And so you're right. Progress, no kidding, is being made today. I see it. There were a couple things that I wanted to share. I've heard or read. So I came across this one show, Your Attention Please. And part of it, and I think what really resonated with me was that title, Your Attention Please. That to me kind of gets to that stop, look, and listen, see, hear, learn something. And so this show is hosted by Craig Robinson, and it's involved, it covers a wide spectrum of things that Black people have done or are doing, from very young people to older people. I mean, in every facet of life. And it's really just to show, people the potential and accomplishments. And so there are a lot of things. So it's been very interesting. I've learned some things, and I hope other people see it, that, what, we're just people, everybody, like I say, I mean, they have their businesses, what they're interested in, how they contribute to life. Another one, I heard an author, Clint Smith, he's the author of How the Word is Passed, because just like the Tulsa Massacre, there's a lot of stories out there. And, the question is, well, where have they been? And so that some of the stories have been passed, and sometimes people didn't want to talk about it. But anyway, the subtitle of his book is really called History of Slavery and How to Reckon with It. So again, how do we reckon with things? And so there's the Rockefeller family has come out publicly and talked about, how their family owned slaves, and they are saying that people need to know, that people need to share. And so it doesn't mean, it's not about right. It may not even be about, we don't ignore what has happened, right? And while we talked about, what's the word, progressive phobia, I personally feel like we should champion progress, because sometimes I hear people, right now people are so serious about, well, yeah, that happened, and what are you doing? Okay, maybe we aren't changing the world all at one time, and maybe things seem to be a little slow. And no, we cannot bury the names of the things that have happened to people that should not have happened. And no, we should not hide the secrets that America ignores in shame. But we can come alongside all those things and champion the progress, because there has been progress. Um, Bill Bratton, I saw, but I know kind of what he's related to, but something to do with, policing. And, everybody's writing a book today. And so, but I did hear him say, he was talking about a book, and I just happened to be walking by when this was on TV. And he talks about implicit bias being a human issue. And so if we're humans, and the fact that he acknowledges that policing, that is at a crossroads, but he's talking about we have positive momentum. And so that's what we're looking at today. It's not easy to take a victory lap with all of this going on, but we can do what we can. And so there's a commercial by Procter and Gamble that I really love the commercial. It may not show in all parts of the country, because Procter and Gamble is actually based out of Cincinnati, and since I'm in Ohio, I may have seen it, others not. But what it is, when you first look at this commercial, you start going, uh-oh, and you sort of, you have these assumptions about what you think is going to happen. I mean, because that's what happens on the news, and that's what happens in the media, or that's what we've seen. But at the end, it ends with, let's widen the screen so we can the view. I just, like I say, if you ever get the opportunity to see it, let that be a moment where you say, yeah, I need to start looking at things differently. I need to not assume the worst. I need to see these people are just people, and there are good things with people. So as Larisa and I are all about a life well lived. I mean, it's everything we say and do is all about a life well lived, no matter what happens. Okay. So for me, this was one of these things I wanted to talk about, but if it helps someone to hear, to have an ear, to reflect, as I drive along, if I see a group of people standing on a corner, sometime, I mean, you see families, or you might see one person, and, we've all seen them. And, some of us might say, well, that's their fault, or I don't know, or I don't have any money, or whatever. For me, I start putting money that I can reach into my car rather than digging them off the corner. But, it might not be money, it might be just physical help, just understanding, whatever, that we don't just stand still, but that we seek what should be. So while it may be difficult to celebrate Juneteenth, but we do need to acknowledge the significance of it, the importance of it, and where we are today. But at the same time, I fully believe we can promote the power of joy, as well as promote positivity every day. But just remember, sometime for people who do music or comedy, I use Marvin Gaye. I listen to lots of genres of music, and I love music. So, but I know that a lot of songs that entertain us really are about serious matters, and that's an entertainer's way to communicate that. And even comedy, even today I've seen and heard some comedy. So for some it's a mask, but you know, but let's just be open to hear and see and We have Juneteenth celebrations because people are resilient, they're faithful. And with that, I think that's all I wanted to kind of just share with you all, just to reflect um, where you can take individual, personal, and share and see others and do your part to make this one America. That's it for me, sister.
So, you know what I was thinking? Well, ladies, listeners, I hope that you found something you can hang your hat on, if you will, your boa. But you know how one is, you've often read that you should keep a gratitude journal. Each day write down 5 or 10 things that you're grateful for. I think sometimes it might be worth writing down. I don't know if we can come up with 5, but certainly, some signs of progress, especially when you're feeling down or feeling the weight of the world, maybe think about reflecting on, first of all, turn off the TV, but, or change the channel, reflect on, find the wins.
Right.
There are some wins out
Yeah.
there. They're buried deep beneath the fold, as the saying goes.
Yes.
When you talk about your web pages, everything, all the good stuff is supposed to be, and the important stuff is supposed to be above the fold. Sometimes the lead story, as they say, is buried beneath the fold. And it might be hard to find, but those good stories are out there. And it's worth looking for them, especially if you're feeling weighed down, because there is a lot going on. I'm just going to say it's not all bad. I did a morning moxie on people behaving badly. And the reason I did that is because sometimes it's like boom, 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 things happen back to back. And so that's what you feel. It's like, how am I going to claw my way out? So when that happens, if you need to, go look for those good stories that are happening, because they are out there. And there may be Kleenex involved, but to Cecilia's point, people are resilient. There are good people that are out there trying to make a difference, trying to make positive change. And in as much as you can, we invite you to be part of the positive change. That was one reason for this episode, is that when we're talking about the business of life well lived, when I say the business of life, that's because, I'm talking about the entrepreneurial side, but, life well lived, that is us as a whole. And so this type of information goes to the whole you, which is who we're always talking to, all of you. We want to touch on the different areas of your life, because we are, there was another word, but I'm just going to say multi-celled, because sometimes you just can't think that clearly. But anyway, there are many facets to each individual. And so it's not just about business. It's not just about exercise. It's not just about, making money. There's your family, there's your thoughts, there's your goals, there's your people who came before, the people who will come after. And so that's why we take a deep dive now and again. You want to keep it light, but we do want you to be well informed. And so I hope that you have taken this episode to heart. And with that, we will wind on down and let you go on with your day. But hopefully we gave you some food for thought. And we, of course, as always, happy to hear from you. We'd love to receive your comments. So we invite you to share your thoughts. Maybe, what does Juneteenth mean to you? Is this something that is celebrated or otherwise acknowledged in your household? And it's a moment in time, it's Juneteenth. And obviously we hope there's some yesterdays and some tomorrows on this topic, because it will be, it's going to take a minute. So anywho, with that, we will say that we look forward to meeting with you again next week on our next topic. And make sure that you go through the playlist and see some of the podcasts that you may have missed. As you say, as we talked about, it's for all of you and the many parts of you as we help you grow and become. Thanks so much for listening, and we look forward to talking to you next time. Today's episode was brought to you by Pink Passport Society, a community of lady mogul multipreneurs, and Cecilia Benford Leadership mentoring, coaching, and an opportunity to grow your leadership chops. So do reach out to Cecilia when you have the opportunity. Thank you so much.